What's up everybody? Welcome to another video in the Ideal Auto Factory. So happy to see you here. Of course, I hope you're having a blessed day. We're just gonna talk about the RD 2.0, my personal chassis, and a brief overview of the chassis in general. We're gonna talk about the electronics, the suspension, the body, and a few unique little characteristics that I've put on it already as my personal build. So let's go ahead and get started. Keep God first, and let's get into this video. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the body itself. This is the Tamiya RX-7, FD RX-7 to be exact, and this actually has a body kit on it from DemiWorks. I believe I got the last one on Super G as a kit, as a Tamiya chassis, and then the FD RX-7 coming together as one. And this kit is as you can see, two-piece. Oh no! Almost lost the camera there. Wow. Okay, back to what I was saying. 1, 2, 3, 4 down here, and you do that double for the other side, so that's 8. And then there's a 9th piece here, which is the spoiler. That is how many pieces come in the kit, and it is also a little unique. It widens the front and the rear, and therefore I am able to basically have a nice inside the wheel well kind of fitment here for both the front and rear. And just like a real car, I did overcut the stock like quarter panel and fenders up front so I could have the extra wheel clearance. Now the body itself is painted on the inside with a engine enamel from Duplicolor in yellow, and then it's backed with a gloss black engine enamel in Duplicolor. And I'll have more on that actual paint job a little later. As of right now, it's holding up, but it's not going to be long lasting, and so that's as much as I'll give there. Other than that, the body itself has been very easy to put together. Outside of the DemiWorks kit itself, the Tamiya stuff is really nice. And then I also have to shout out RCDN. There's their sticker there. That is the basic network that I am a part of, and as of right now, if you want to check them out, you can get over to their Facebook, their website, their Instagram, anywhere, and you'll find content worth consuming. Now that we've talked about this body, which is not fully complete, still got lights to do and things like that, we're going to talk about the actual electronics. So let me go ahead and get this body off, and let me show you what electronics I have in this chassis. As you can see here, this is the Hobbywing XD10 ESC with a AGFRC capacitor on there, keeping with that black and silver kind of theme there. This ESC, I just mounted this ESC today before I was running the XR10 Pro, but I wanted to show you all what would be the basic full setup that I plan to run. Now, with this ESC and that capacitor there, this capacitor is non-polar, so you can run it plus, minus, minus, plus. And if you plug your batteries in backwards, it does protect the ESC. And of course, you got to change the capacitor after you do that. Now, outside of the ESC, I have the AccuVance Fledge motor. I have a full AccuVance setup on another chassis, so I am sticking with the same motor here because I want to do a comparison of the ESCs, Hobbywing versus AccuVance. But that is the motor. This is the 10.5 with the upgraded or changed out, because I don't know about upgrade as far as rotors are concerned, but the LV45 rotor is in the 10.5T motor, and that is what's basically like the power plant here. Servo wise, as you can see, it's just black right now, but this is the Injora 14 kilogram servo. It's a very inexpensive servo, and I'm running this servo because it hasn't done me any wrong. It doesn't even chatter, it doesn't do anything. It just turns left and turns right, and that's all I needed to do. The gyro, this is my third time having this gyro here, the Power HD G2 gyro. This gyro itself has a basically like rotation speed and a gyro gain feature, and I really like it. It pairs well with any of the servos that I've had, and I've tried it with like 3 or 4 different kinds of servos. I'm also going to point out the actual remote that I'm using. I'm using a simple Sanwa MT44. Basic, nothing special about it, and it just works because in the drift world you don't need nothing too fancy. You just need something better than RTR sometimes. So that is the electronics. Hobbywing XD10 ESC, AGFRC capacitor, Accuvance Fledge 10.5T motor, Endura servo, Power HD G2 gyro, and a Sanwa remote. I have my battery in here just so you all can see the stance, because now we're going to get into the actual chassis. And before I dive into what I have done, I'm going to get on my computer. We're going to go on a very familiar website and we're going to talk about what the RD 2.0 is. So let's go do that now. All right, I'm here on the Super G website. This website has the RD 2.0 for basically $200, a little under, $230. I don't know how much shipping is, but to your doorstep, it's going to be around $200 something. Now, the RD 2.0 is the Rookie Drift version 2. What is the Rookie Drift? Well, the Rookie Drift itself is 99.9999999% plastic. So it's a full plastic chassis with a few, design quirks and upgrades from version 1 that come from the SD 2.0 and just basically like expert drivers' opinions. So you get a new rear ESC mount, that's standard. You get a new gearbox with 4 gears. The wiper system, the steering system is different here. There's a new battery holder, a new upper deck, there's new front suspension, all this other stuff. It's new, okay? It's a whole lot of new stuff with the RD 2.0 that actually changes the dynamic of the vehicle. Well, I'm gonna get to some of the stuff and then we'll hop back over to the table and continue on. But between me and you, this chassis is so much fun at a price point that does not break the wallet at all. Look at this steering angle here. This is full lock to the right, and then the Ackerman involved with going from perfectly straight to full lock to the right is wonderful. Okay, it's very predictable. This steering system itself, the wiper system, is new, and I'll be honest, it is, to me, it's very simple. It also is not overly complicated. So what I mean by simple is there's 4 parts: the base, the 2 arms, and then this piece right here. 4 parts, connect the servo to it, and you got steering. Then also, when I say it's not overly complicated, there's not a lot of adjustments you can make. You go spacers if you want, from here to here. You can get a different spacing in between there, or you can drop this down lower. The ball stud here can go down 1 to the lower position, and that's about it. You get the quick change rear diff casing. You get rear ESC mount standard. And that's a cue from expert drivers' opinions. Here it is stated right there. And then also, you get a new upper deck. It's got a whole lot of new stuff. And I'll be honest, this is just one of those chassis that, because it's all plastic, you shouldn't count it out and you shouldn't be all, judgy on it. It is the real deal. It can boogie. So let's go ahead and back over to the actual table and discuss some things. Oh, one last thing I do want to point out, Super G is a great website to check everything out. I know you may not be local to the California area, and there could be a local hobby shop to you, but some of them you may not be able to walk into. Hopefully they have an online presence. But yeah, in short, support your local hobby shop and support hobby shops in general. Don't be buying your drift chassis off of Amazon and stuff. There's plenty of websites to grab the RC drift chassis from that actually has your best interest in mind. All right, let's get back over to the table. I'm going to show you all some unique ways that I've made this chassis my own. As you already should have noticed, this is not the stock deck. This is the Team AD carbon fiber deck. It is also the carbon fiber upper deck, and you can also notice that there's no battery holder. I basically removed that altogether and ran a 2 basic hook and loop straps, and then my battery is held on to the top deck here. Another feature is that I've braced that top deck here. You can see that brace from the bottom deck to the top deck. There is a brace right here, sort of like GOM, Anti Plus, or any other chassis that has a basic like rod in the center of it. And that is because back here, you can see that my top deck is not connected to the actual lower deck or the transmission here. And that allows this little bit of movement. You can see it. See that little bit of movement there? So I wanted a little bit of flex because I have a chassis that does not flex at all, and so I wanted to feel the difference. So that's what I have here. Another unique thing that I've done to this chassis is I've opted to go for the straight up and down setup for the shocks up front, and the elephant in the room, which is not really an elephant, but it is pretty obvious. I have the standoffs here to raise the upper arms, and I have the sort of brass, they're brass weights on the steering links. More so, if you look, the chassis does not bump steer at all. And that is because of how I have it set up in the front with the angles. So basically, bump steer involves, a lot of stuff that people don't want to think about, other than if you don't have it fully parallel, all 3 of your arms, then you're going to have bump steer. I did a little more research, and bump steer is way more than just having parallel links. That's just an easy way to get you to not have bump steer. But with my setup, I needed that front droop in length because this is, of course, weight shift style, and you can get no bump steer even when you're turning. You can get no bump steer by basically having all your angles, top, bottom, and middle, all those angles, get to a center point together at the same time. Don't ask me to explain it a different way because you can go look it up yourself and try your hardest. So this basically is how I have the front end set up, and as you can see, I have plenty of travel. Now, the shocks themselves are set up exactly like they should be in the manual. I actually didn't really care that much. I built them all in like 5 minutes and they just work. Again, trying to have fun here, not really going too crazy on the competition type stuff. Everything else is stock other than the front bumper. That is a Team AD front bumper as well. In the rear, what am I running in the rear? You can see my camber links here and here. So in the rear, my camber links are not up top in the traditional spot. They are forward and connected down there on a specific spot on the actual chassis. Now, what this does is it allows for none of the arms or the camber links to touch this shock tower top half, because if it was there and, connected to where it normally would be somewhere in there, then over time, when you droop, you go from this and then you go full squat, it would hit this spot right here And I didn't want that, so I moved them up there, and they're free as they can be. You can see in there, I have the scale reflex rear bumper modified to give clearance for that shock spring collar. And then I've also changed out the length here and the springs themselves. These are LTS springs from the LTS Yokomo SD1, I believe that's what it's called. And again, straight up and down. That is the rear setup there. Camber links are different and straight up and down for the actual dampers. Arms are the same, but then the final piece here that makes this very, very special is those lever ratio arms here, which basically take the place of the RD 2.0 extensions, arm extensions or whatever, and I go ahead and extend them all the way inward with a longer ball stud. So you can see there, I have basically, if I flip it all the way over, you can see really what's happening there. On these arms, you can see here, I have the basically like wrap up next extensions, and they hold in the middle and then they extend this way. And so I have the actual damper straight up and down, but you can't do it with the stock arms. So I added this to make the lever ratio a little different there. So that's the rear end. And that is pretty much it for this as far as uniqueness goes. Oh, yeah, one more thing. The ESC mount is actually flipped. So instead of being down that way, I put it up that way. And basically trying to get, more high center of gravity there. And there we have it. The rear end on this is complete. One of the other things I wanted to point out from this being a version 2 of the Rookie Drift chassis is that it came out after the RDX, and I kind of feel like they just became, true competitors. This being adjustable, the other one being more of a kind of fixed chassis. The 4-gear gearbox in this chassis, along with where it's placed, it makes it drive so well. I don't think I've noticed drive shafts that much before. I kind of notice it now on the MD1 compared to this, but because of these suspension mounts being, this one being kind of like back here mounted, but then more forward, and it's like clearance for the gearbox, the axles themselves are angled. This axle right here is angled backwards towards the rear of the chassis, or you could say it's not in line with the wheels. It drives so well. I think that has something to do with it, but yeah, this is the chassis overall. There's still some wire shortening I have to do. I want to show you all how I do that, and then some other things as well, but this is pretty much the overall chassis, and I'm going to try to keep it as plastic as possible for as long as possible. We'll see how that goes. Now I want you all to be on the lookout for more videos for sure. There will be more in-depth talk on this chassis. I just wanted to give a brief overview and give you a little bit of the why behind the what. But I have so much planned for this. We're going to be going way further in detail, and ultimately give you just insight on what I do, and also what can be done with a basic kit without spending so much money, and how much fun you can get from it. So go ahead and like the video, subscribe if you haven't, and also you can comment down below whether you have an RD 2.0, whether you want one, and what you would like to see done to an RD 2.0. And then, we'll just have great conversation, and we'll continue on and growing together in the RC Drift community. Thank you all for watching. Keep God first, and I will catch you on the next video.